So we might be, first of all, Robert, thank you for the bridge from the fireside chat to thinking about our present, future, and our identity. So thank you again, Robert. And now we turn it over to Brian. That will, first I've worked with Brian for over 20 years. We all know Brian. I felt like we owed it to Brian that when he did all those stakeholder interviews, hours of videotape, that at least we got to show him where we're going on the other side. So he collected all the rationale for where we're at. No one knows us better internally. But also, I think Brian has done strategic plans for 30 to 40 JCCs. How many execs in this room have worked with Brian? Right, so Brian, thank you for maybe helping us go from a little bit of the why and how to the what. And I'm really grateful to have you in our space, as always. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you sharing a bit of today and tomorrow's agenda with me. And I'm appreciating the flow of the discussion this afternoon, and I hope you are as well. Obviously, when we began today's discussion, Barak was telling us about this particular moment for us and for the movement. The challenges that are clearly in front of us, but also importantly, the momentum that we bring to the work. But change is coming, and I appreciated the way that Robert has asked us to be intentional about our role in the change process. We're going to get to try that on soon. Okay? So today, or for the balance of our time together, I want to spend a few minutes talking about this strategy framework process that has really already begun and underway, and that we will focus on in an important way in the next 90 to 120 days. This afternoon, our discussion will mostly be setting context around what that work is like. And then tomorrow morning, when we have 2 hours together, we'll actually look at the services that we think become the foundation of this new strategy framework, broken out by the 3 centers. Okay? So the balance of our time this afternoon is process. Tomorrow morning is content. Make sense? Okay. So hopefully this looks familiar. This is Barak's exact slide from this morning talking about the journey ahead. This idea of our strategy framework is really these steps here for the rest of the year, okay? Leading into the January board meeting in, where's Barak? New York? Or Lisa or Dave? New York? New York, okay. So we know, one of Barak's takeaways this morning is that we're on the clock, right? We have 145 JCCs that have joined our effort and have become stakeholders in our work. We now need to ensure that we drive enough value back into the field that they stay stakeholders. We also know that we need to raise enough funds to do the work that meets the needs of the field and enables us to achieve our potential as a movement. So those are the steps that are in the boxes in red. We need to clarify the services and capabilities that we want to bring to the field. We need to think through what human resources will be required to deliver on those services. And we got to figure out how we're going to pay for it in a sustainable way. Okay? So those are that fourth quarter, if you will, from a calendar perspective, not a football perspective, is the work of this strategy framework. Okay? When we are done, when we come to January, we need to have certain deliverables. One is clarity on how we're going to add value to the field. What services are we offering? What capabilities do we need? And really what, as a subset of that, what do we want to bet on in the next year or so? Okay? We can't take, we don't have the luxury of 5 years to implement this plan. We need to be putting wheels in motion in just the next year. We do need an org chart. There's a ironic juxtaposition of numbers in what Barak shared this morning. Like, we've arguably never had more JCCs supporting our work and as members or stakeholders. And at the same time, the team has probably been the smallest that maybe it's ever been. And Barak gave you some of the benchmarks of other organizations. Hillel and who else you're mentioning? BBYO. So we have to change that. We have to change that. We're going to need more people on the team. By the way, they don't all have to be full-time employees. We can work with, we can better utilize our retired execs. We can partner with third parties. But we're going to need to think about what the team needs to look like, and we're going to need the right leadership in order to bring to life the deliverables that are on the first bullet point. Obviously, yes, we're going to need a revenue model to make sure that we can sustain the team that we know is necessary for the work. Of course, our investments from the field will be a big part of that. There might be fee-for-service or programmatic revenues that will be a part of that. And of course, there will be a philanthropic component that is necessary for our success. But we have to figure out exactly what are the numbers and how can we convince ourselves that it's going to work. Lastly, hashtag tell our story. We've talked about that several times today. We're going to need, for lack of a better phrase, a pitch deck to pitch potential investors in this work. Okay? We're going to need that capital in order to bring this plan to life in a time frame that meets our needs. Okay? So those are the 3 or 4 deliverables from our process. Let me pause there and welcome any questions or concerns that you have with the process that's outlined, or the deliverables that I've outlined. Anyone?
How do you define investors?
Yeah, so the simplest definition, I think, are philanthropic organizations that have shown or have the potential to show an interest in our movement and Jewish community in North America.
All right, so I'm going to push back on you a little bit.
Go for it.
Because I've heard you speak a few times, and I think
Yeah.
you're always very financially driven.
Okay.
Which I think is terrific.
Okay.
However, I think it also misses the big picture.
Okay, tell me more.
And the reason I think this is the big picture is our investors should be all of our stakeholders. The people who pay to participate in our program,
Yeah.
whether they are an ambassador or partner or whatever the other level's called, affiliate,
Yeah.
are as important,
Yeah.
maybe even more important than the philanthropic organizations that might write checks. Because if the 145
Yeah.
JCCs that have signed on don't have full buy-in and don't, and I'm going to say from their boards,
Yeah.
from their executives and from their staff,
Mhm.
everyone's wasting their time.
Yeah.
So while you're looking at this pitch deck, I hope you're thinking about it
Yeah.
in terms of all kinds of stakeholders, not just foundations that are going to write checks.
I think we're in a yes and situation because I think arguably what makes us most attractive as an investment platform is the network of
That's all we got.
exactly of 145 sites and all those individuals who are walking through our door every day. So I am completely in agreement with you. And on top of that, I know that what we have in terms of financial investment from the field is awesome and also insufficient to achieving our goals. Right.
One thing that you sparked, shocker, they're another investor beyond the foundation world, and I haven't made a ton of rounds, but I've met enough, is the federations. Some of these federations are worried about funding, lowered that funding because they weren't hearing from their constituencies they were really adding value. Even New York has said, by them all showing up right now, could they collectively get New York Federation?
Yeah.
And Federation lowered it only, they told me, because they did a little smoke test and heard that the field was going, so they lowered us by 6 figures. Michael could show you the history, they used to give us a lot more. Then we should also realize that there is a pitch into the federations that we can add value to their local JCC.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, from meeting with Chicago, New York, they could come back to being a little bit of a stakeholder,
Yeah.
but they'll first want to know that the JCCs are affiliated, check.
Yeah.
Is the foundation world invested too?
Yeah.
But we should not forget about some of your relationships with federations that could easily collectively throw in some money to this movement.
Right on.
Okay.
Other questions or concerns about the process? Wow. Nailed it.
Just, Brian, what I'm hearing is really bullet number 3, right? It's just a clarity around the revenue model and how the different pieces kind of fit together.
Yeah.
Probably is required for this team to be able to help drive it. Because I'm in full agreement that it's not, we probably need to pitch decks.
Yeah, right. That's true.
And-
That's
and-
true.
And that will solve that problem. But
Yeah.
the first thing I would want to wrap my head around is, in terms of the revenue model, where are the revenue sources? What percentage can we rely on from the field or from other
Right.
places? What does that gap look like?
Yes.
And then, but the gap could be filled hopefully one day with greater field investment.
Maybe.
You know, we're just not there yet.
Yeah.
But that clarity around the revenue model, I think, will help this conversation immensely.
Yes, yes, and I can tell by the nature of your reflection that we can't get there until we answer the preceding questions.
Right.
Todd?
I also think that what's happening tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday is part of the revenue model, right? Because the success that lies in ProCon comes back to the exec and the board for greater investment in the field. And we send the greater ProCon et al. Is, the more people we're inspired to send, the greater, right? It's that flywheel in that regard as well.
Well said. Well said. Were there other hands, other questions, concerns? Dave?
I'm always the weird one in the financial thing, looking at things. Obviously, 145 JCCs have signed on at whatever level, ambassadors, partners, affiliates, all doing that, taking it into account from, obviously, their revenues and all that to support the association. But I always think to myself, 1.5 million visitors every week, $3 a year, that's $4.5 million. Literally pennies per day.
Our pitch man. Yeah. One of the concerns that I've heard in leading up to this work is, how can we do this in 30 days, or how can we do this in 120 days? My response to that is, well, geez, I guess, if we had the luxury of doing this over the course of 6 months or 9 months, that'd be lovely, but I don't think that we do. For all of the reasons that we've talked about this afternoon. And I take great solace in the fact that by no means are we starting from scratch with this work. The stakeholder paradigm was a saga. Okay, we had 12 to 18 months worth of conversations and interactions with the field that I think critically enable us to move faster with this work. This work builds on all of what we learned in those earlier engagements and the collective wisdom that you all bring to our labor. So in addition to that as a strong foundation, this is not Barak and I in a back room working on this, or Barak and Michael and I working on this. Trying to do it in a very collaborative way. Barak has alluded to the fact that we invited all of the ambassador CEOs, of which there are, by the way, there are 25 ambassador. Michael, how many do we have in the original model? Okay, nice job. So 25 ambassador CEOs, all the board CEOs, giving their quick reactions to our hypotheses on what services belong in what centers, right? So we use all of what we learned from stakeholder. We put a hypothesis together. We're already testing it with the ambassador and board CEOs. Okay? You'll see the benefits of those discussions tomorrow morning as we walk through each of the centers. Furthermore, we have a multidisciplinary task force that will help us with this work in the next 3 months. There's board members. There are JCC CEOs. Scott's one of them. And Jonathan Lett. So two execs on the group. And then also some lay leaders from the field, at least one lay leader from the field. So different voices, different perspectives at the table for that. Lastly, you all will play an important role. You're informing our work today and tomorrow morning. There'll be a little bit of an update in December as we piece things together, and then we have a half a day or a significant portion of the board meeting in January to wrestle with this. Okay? So I do feel like this is, I feel it is, I hope you guys agree, a collaborative process that's grounded in the needs of the field and the potential of the field. Okay? So this is going to be a key focus in this fourth calendar quarter. Just wanted to make sure that you all felt you know where the process is going. You're as comfortable with the process as you can be. What was it? I'd rather be curious than certain. Robert, is that what you advised us? So any other questions or concerns about the work? Yeah, Barak.
I think that what I'd probably add as a bullet in there is my bringing the major funders along. So I had check-in calls with them in November before we roll out, so they understand where we are in the process. I met a lot of them during the summer, but I think, again, the spirit that people support,
Yeah.
that I didn't want there to be 5 months between seeing me in the summer and showing up in February with, food warriors, food more,
Yeah,
please,
right.
more, please. Does anyone know about the Oliver reference? Yes. No one knows what I'm talking about?
I want you to sing it.
Please, Sarah, I want some.
I think we should show the suitcase.
The point is that, right, I don't want to come just with my hand, I want to bring them along. And some of them have actually volunteered to look at the pitch deck before it goes to the others, so they see how it lands. Some of them have said we could host a convening for it, or you might want to go hand to hand. So some of them are thinking behind the scenes about what this could look like, because they feel by potentially bringing everyone together, there could be a collective pressure, or you know what I mean, to be in the room. But they have said to me, which I hear loud and clear, get 1 or 2 people that are already deeply committed to the work, to already be a leader before that meeting,
Yeah.
to say that they're in. So they feel, because they do all help each other's projects, but there should be 1 or 2 that have said, we buy into this. So you can imagine who those could be. So I think it's really important that as we think about this, I'll have to remind myself, and reminding myself, but how we bring along
Yeah.
the major foundations.
Yes.
I think it's also going to be important to bring along the board and to be sure that board members understand the importance of the December call
Yeah.
as a preface to the January meeting. Because otherwise, the 40 of us that are here now are able to do some of the work
Yeah.
and buy in completely. But the ability to, depending on how the question mark is in December, in January,
Yeah.
I think we want to really encourage everyone to be aware and to be engaged in December on that call in order to make,
Yeah.
the meeting itself more valuable and more efficient.
So this entire meeting is being videotaped, which we are going to share with people who are in there, and we have a call set up so that anybody
Yeah.
else is here can also be led through the process as you are doing that work.
Yes. Yes. Okay. What else on the process? top concerns?
Finding people to work in the organization come January.
Yeah. Yeah. So I asked about top concerns, and Mark suggested finding the people that can make this work. Barak works 120 hours a week, but he's going to need some colleagues, some help. Yeah.
I would pair with what Mark said, finding the resources
Yeah.
to enable the people to start their work.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the, what you're talking.
Yeah. And I choose to think that there's a constructive tension between I know who I need on the team, I want them to start, but we need the resources so that we're making sure that we're good financial stewards of the organization. I trust that it's going to work out, but there's of course a tension there because we know we got to get moving.
I'm newer to this board, so I assume that on this board are people who hold relationships with some of these funders and have had direct, meaningful, over the years, contact. Have we gone through the process of identifying who those lay leaders or board leaders are with who has and holds those relationships to make sure that
Like our influencers?
the influencers are well equipped to properly influence?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Not with the level of intentionality that Robert would want us to have, but some have already been, and some of the people who are in this room and not in this room have already made some calls, but it has not been yet a disciplined strategy.
Oh, yeah, Jay.
It may not be the type of risk that you're talking about at this stage, or maybe something further along, but as we engage with what I'm sure are going to be enthusiastic partners, and I haven't yet, we're going to go into tomorrow kind of more what the framework looks like, but if we build the framework with an idea of focus, and so that we don't, I've heard Barak say it, that we don't get drawn, that we want the support of as many funders as we can get, but that we keep our focus on whatever it is that we decide is our strategic initiatives to deliver value.
Be clear on our lane,
Right.
right? Good.
So I wanted to go back to what you said earlier about who was involved in
Yeah.
the process. And in there you said, 25 JCC CEOs in the ambassador level, but that leaves 120 other JCCs that, we also have to prove something to, and, potentially we want to, wouldn't it be great to move them all up to that ambassador level?
Right on.
And so that's really my question is how do we take that into consideration?
Yeah, for that I go right back to the first bullet point because I feel like we must have whether through surveys, interviews, or focus groups, we captured probably 80% of the field in the work that preceded this. And we have volumes of findings from all of those discussions. And it was interesting. I know there's at least a couple of execs who are in the room. They can attest that on these calls that you're referencing, they would say, well, we may not be 100% representative of the field, probably skew a little bit larger, maybe skew a little bit more tenured, but they know their colleagues, and they could represent both, how they see the questions and the services from what they are hopeful for their own J's, as well as the field at large. So I feel good about, given our time constraints, how we're leveraging feedback from a very wide array of stakeholders in this work.
Remember, we had J Summit, where we must have had 5 different workshops.
Yeah, exactly right.
Board chairs and execs.
Right, but it didn't talk about the centers of excellence and things like that. This is a newer concept.
Yeah, I think that what I have to think about is, one is on these move and write updates, how to keep on bringing people along at a high level. I'm a little gun shy yet to put like the other 120 on and make a presentation and not ask for input.
Yeah.
And obviously having 6 more calls is a lot. So I just have to think about how do we do that and bring people along. For example, the New York group is easy. There's like 20 of them. They ask if you come to the offices in New York in December and meet with them and hear what's going on. Well, that's a group. But the goal is really at Mifgosh on February 2nd in Atlanta. So, because the skeleton will be there. The bones, there's still a lot of bones to figure out. The bottom line is we need human resources. And I think if I heard from the field, I'm pretty confident that what you see tomorrow, after all of you Alpine, every J director will be like, sounds great. For the most part, what I think that they don't realize is the breadth of services that we do that they didn't know about. Like we have an exec specific, I had no idea that my camp, our resident camp, was doing all the visa program through you. What a benefit. So, like, they didn't even realize they were already getting some value in services because we have not been marketing actually what we do. So even by putting it out the way it is, people are like, oh, we actually get a lot of things already. Like, so that's important. A lot of people are already getting things that they didn't realize. So we're trying to also make sure it tells the story.
That's the communication piece.
And it's been always
The other element, the other consideration, which I'm going to say very carefully, is that without a doubt, this needs to be an inclusive process. Transparent, but it's not democratic. We are not taking a vote on what are the 5, most important services for us to offer. This is not a democracy. Robert Healy's disturbed my thinking in a great way about leadership. This is one of our opportunities to lead. This is a top box activity. Where are we going? What's our service architecture of the future? Okay. This is our time now. What else in terms of concerns, if any? Okay. Well, I'll leave you with that over. Oh, Lisa, were you going to say something? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll leave you with that process overview. I'll keep you on the edge of your seat to come back, metaphorically speaking, to come back tomorrow morning to see what we are hearing and what we anticipate offering in the 3 services. Or excuse me, in the 3 centers. Okay? And then the next phase of the process will have us working on our human resources and then the funding model. Okay. David, you want to close this out?
Well, thank you, Brian. You finished a lot earlier than I thought you'd be finished, so the great framework of everything. So here we are, and to wrap up this business focus part of our day, let's take a few moments to reflect upon what we've all gone through today and experienced and learned, and just like to get your impressions of today as well. Thoughts? Well, I could share my thoughts.
Come on, everybody. What I got out of it today.
Hi. And I feel like it's been really good discussion and inclusive of people's thoughts and ideas going forward and what creating the future, what that is going to look like and how we will all be included. So I think it's been a really good experience.
Thank you. Phyllis.
I think so much of what feels great right now is literally just being together, and that gives us the foundation and reminds us that we really are all on the same page, and now we're on the same page with the timeline, but we're on the same with the timeline and the resources and the people that are actually in the process where we can collectively come up with something that we've all seen bits and pieces of it, but we know what we need to get to, and I think that actually being together has helped a lot of it. And I'm really glad that we don't have Zoom going on, because I think it sends a really important message about the value. I don't remember whose document, if it was from Barak or from David, that there's value to being in the room, and that needs to be something that we appreciate as leaders in terms of how we get from where we are now to where we're going.
Thank you. Just tack on, yes, we are videotaping, okay, and yes, we will send out a link of 6 hours of Peloton content to those who weren't in the room, but we're also going to provide an executive summary of some sort, so hopefully people get it, up front, and then the follow-up meeting. So we are being inclusive. We want to involve, and, from what we gather from even going into tomorrow and the thought process, get other voices that are added to the conversation. So that's important. Yes, sir. Mr. Schreiber.
At the December call, when we go over things, will you have a priority list that says, for the first $1 million raised, we're going to do this. For the second $1 million, we're going to do this. Give us an idea of priority direction.
I can meet with you after the meeting. Yes.
Cocktail time. Yes. Good stuff. Mark.
You said hope is not a strategy. I'm sitting here full of hope and belief in where we're going. And I don't think I've ever been able to say that sitting in this board. So thanks.
Jay. And I haven't said yet from Waco, Texas. Plano, Texas. I forgot.
So I want to say that I am excited because I heard Mark Fisher be enthusiastically vocal. And this is the first time that I can say that having sat on this board. So, I'm just kidding. But no, I was going to just say this has been a remarkable discussion, all the things everybody else is saying. Will you tomorrow, or Barak, or Lisi, or somebody, or Annette, or whatever, obviously we've talked a lot about, we've got the commitment and the support of the 145Js. We are working on filling out how we earn the support of outside funders. What was not mentioned, but I know we talked about at a previous board meeting, is this board, and Scott's actually alluded to it a few times, this board has expressed interest in stepping forward and helping financially. And I'm just curious if we will start to hear more. Obviously, we're putting more meat on the bones, but this sounds like meat on the bones, like what this process that we're embarking on starting tomorrow morning. And so I just think, in order to go to funders, it would be important if we, in your words, buckled up and started, helping us financially, if there's the support in the room, and if we've earned it. But I know we talked about TICFA a while ago, and we haven't heard a lot about it, and I don't want to take up too much time away from other things, but I think this board, should think about how we're going to support the association.
Well, it won't be a meeting where you got to stand up and give your Yom Kippur pledge. We're not looking at that.
But I know we took a pause.
Yes,
and I'm
we
just
did.
saying, if we're doing all this work and ready to go to outside investors, I think we would be ready also along that timeline to go to inside investors.
Yes. And those are all private one-on-one conversations, but yes, we will. Thank you. Other thoughts? Michael.
So, I think I was on this board 4 years when I was an exec, and now it comes to these meetings for 2 years in my co-employment. And I think, sorry, I was on the board for 4 years as an exec. I've been coming to these meetings for 2 years as CFO. And I think what I take away from this is that the work of creating the future and nurturing identity requires building the muscle to do that. I think this is the first time I've seen this board work towards building the muscle to do that rather than manage the present. And I think that bodes well for the future.
I just want to mention, you're doing the small, I think the board's doing the small things that make a difference. Making those phone calls to the board chairs at every JCC really made a difference. I can't believe Fisher has hope.
I am retired.
That's why.
We all have more confidence in JCCA and more confidence in the board. We're talking about the board in a confident way. So I congratulate Barak and you, David, for doing what you're doing, and Lisa as you come in. We're making great strides forward. In fact, there's 38 CEOs coming as for tomorrow. They'll be here. 38 CEOs from JCCs, which is a big group coming as CEOs to a ProCon. So they believe in what's happening. They want to know what's happening, and they're behind this board and the entire JCCA. So great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have
Shelley.
an observation. When I look at the 145 JCCs, and we heard 25 are ambassadors. I don't know how many are affiliates. Whatever.
My-
There's
107
Middle group. Oh, that
What are
107.
they called?
partners.
Okay.
And 13 affiliates.
All right, so if you target the 107, okay, so to me, it's always, you gotta go after the 80%. Because the 20% at the top, those 25 have, I'm not gonna say 100% bought in, but they commit. But you've got 107 partners. Some of them probably, like I know my JCC can't afford to be an ambassador at the moment. Maybe that'll change. But how do you get
$3 a day per member. 30 pennies a day.
It sounds really good unless you're in the middle of closing.
I know. But
So, but if you have 107, you know, how do we get, let's say, I'm just creatively saying 10% or 20% of that 107 to say, I really want to be an ambassador. Like, what would we have to do? And how would we have to perform in order to get more JCCs to want to be ambassadors and to move that needle? Because to me, it's like you look at the speedometer or whatever you want to call it. That's the needle you want to move. Everybody should want to be in that.
Right, so we have actually have 4 colleagues who've agreed to serve with me as a little think tank about, one is, how do we make the current 25 have an experience, right? And there are different schools of thought on that experience right now, which is, we had a healthy call last week, but some of us, Scott was on the call, other board, why be an ambassador, what different thoughts, Andrew. So we're gonna be grabbing people because first, before we go sell the others to join, the current 25 have to be like, oh, it's real. Like it was something, it wasn't just a checkbox. And we have to decide different schools of thought about what that is. So there's a little bit of FOMO. So the people at the partner level say, oh my God, wait, should I? And it can't be just you get your own swag.
Right.
Like you're not walking around a conference saying I'm an ambassador.
It has to-
But it has to be a value add, and we need to put them, I have 4 execs. And the biggest thing is to find out how to make it tangible and sticky to the current 25, so the others want to join.
Well, it has to be enough so that the CEO or
Yeah.
COO can go to their own board and say, it's really working.
I would even say to you, yes, and. Some of these J's, I came from them, are plus 20-something million. A lot of them will talk about $60,000 to $80,000 gaps. If the exec wants it, a lot of boards, they'll be like, okay. So, those that are really, some will make it a board discussion, some will say that that's where I need to be. The goal is just, we've got to show value. Look, in my perfect world, we'll get rid of that middle value, we'll have an affiliate and an ambassador. But we have, by this time next year, remember, we're 3 months away from expiring. So I need the current group to want to stay, more to move up. My biggest fear would be if people are like, I can still get what I'm getting and I can drop down. If those 25 times 20 grand drop down, about $500,000 problem. So we're on it though. The good thing is not to feel that we have to have all the answers. Go to the group and ask them what that experience will look like so they feel it was valuable. And so we have 4 different execs working on that right now.
If you have some of those 25 drop down, we have worse than a financial problem because the message to the rest of the field is that there's no value, or there's not enough value.
Don't freak me out. Don't freak me out.
No, but yes, I
Yes.
think
No, that's
it's a critical time.
That's why we actually.
And ideally, the ambassadors have such a fabulous experience. They serve as ambassadors to lift up the others to a higher
I
level.
will say that some of them, not a ton, but it was more like, that because Brian and I reached out to them to join this week, some of them were like, wow, we're behind the scenes working on the plan. Like, wow, that's an honor to be in that group. Others would love to be in that group. So, you know, but we don't want to like overdo it right now. We just need to make sure it sticks, to your point. If they drop down, that's bad.
We don't have a history of engaging the field the way Barak has engaged the field since July. That in and of itself is a huge factor in moving the needle for ongoing affiliation and JCC.
First of all, thank you for saying that. But it was also, Jonathan Lett ended our call, he goes, you're already doing it by this call. It's not why do we have a center for innovation, it's how we're building it with you for the field. So just, we have to keep that cadence. It's a lot more meetings, it's a lot more outreach. In the end, we're 145 of our biggest stakeholders. So we have to figure out, which is part of the stuff we're working on in that first shuffles that we need, is to make sure that every exec will have a point of contact to the association that cares about them, but also advocates for what we're trying to do for them. So it's not what do you need, it's also, here's what we're doing, why are you not taking advantage of it? I mean, let's call it, we have an amazing Maritime Fellows program. I think it's incredible. Many, I think, Carrie, what do we have, 3 execs in the field that were former Maritime Fellows this year. You know what was crazy is? I was shocked. 25 applications for 20 spots. Really? The whole movement only had 25 rock stars that are working with you to nominate when the program cost them nothing. Trips to Israel, engagement, programming. We shouldn't have to, like, for those types of fellowships. And some people said to me, oh my God, I completely, like, I missed it, I forgot. Well, that's so, some stuff we actually have products. The people are so busy trying to get themselves out of their bubble that they forget to take advantage. Sometimes we have to beg people to apply for a Marvin Repair Fellowship. Your staff person gets to go to Israel, gets to be renewed and refreshed. And I know that some of those types of programs can actually help you retain your staff. Because they feel like, wow, you put me in a fellowship, I'm committed to this, you're believing in me. Yeah, you can't give me more than a 3% raise, but you're sending me to Israel, fully paid for 10 days with Leah Garber? Like, so we have to also rethink about the communication issue. How are we putting out our product and also inspiring our colleagues to apply? My bigger problem will be when you have 80 people applying, you know we have to take 20, and they say, well, I'm an ambassador, you should prioritize my people. Let that be our problem, but that will be a potential problem because the ambassadors will think some of my nominations should have priority, and maybe that's something else that will help people to want to move up. You know, so there's a lot there that we're trying to figure out.
And it's another opportunity, I think, for the board to be called to service for engagement, because as we're promoting a particular program, I mean, you're resource limited. You only have 50 people, but there are many of us who are willing to pick up the phone and call somebody on the board or an executive and share, you know, what we know and advocate for something. So yeah, call us, because it certainly worked well in this last go around with the execs. Let's take advantage of all of the people who are willing to step up and make, you know, developing relationships.
So it's got to be a relational movement. We know the line, otherwise it's transactional. Andrew?
Yeah. It's all right. I was going to call. And then Ed.
Some JCC stuff this morning, so I caught the end of the leadership discussion. I mean, what I saw, it would be great if we can amplify that to the field, because from where I sit, where I've always sat, it's really up to the leadership of those JCCs to take the value that we find in the movement and be able to amplify it locally. And there's a lot of things that we do as a movement that we don't quantify, and they're the best value that we provide. So just bring people together in a network, an ecosystem of Jewish community building is something we take for granted as table stakes. It's not table stakes. It is the best value we provide. And if we can get boards at a local level thinking about how they need to be thinking about strategy and where the association fits in their universe of strategy, that will change the entire dynamic of the conversation, as opposed to we have to go out there and sell them value every day. They have to see themselves part of a larger mission and vision that we're all connected to. So I've been on the calls, I've seen the list. I think we do a lot of great work, and we'll be able to show that value. But I just wonder if we can get them thinking at 500,000 feet about their role in community building, how quickly it will come to them that being a part of this is actually one of the most important ways for them to achieve their goals and objectives. So sorry I missed a good chunk of it, but what I caught at the end I thought was immensely valuable. I took 3 pictures that I know I'm bringing back, and I'm going to call you and figure out how to get that conversation in our community. But if we can figure out how to get that into every community and get boards thinking differently, it'd be much easier for us to sell. We're not selling. We're building Jewish life, and they have to see this as a vehicle that helps them. So I just want to put that out there, because I know on our list of value proposition, connecting to each other is, I don't know, in my opinion, is vastly underplayed, because I think people see it as, well, that's not really the work you're doing. But if we didn't exist, imagine that universe for them. So I just want to put that out there.
Thank you. Ed, did you have one more thing you want to add?
Yeah.
And this will be the last thing, and then I'm going to wrap up with a few things.
Following up on Jay's comment about the importance of the board and finances. First of all, the board's been great. We're going to get 100% participation like we always do. But Michael has a budget that he works on, and while we have 25 ambassadors that will help our budget starting next year, that money is not in this year. And so it's really important that Michael gets the money that is part of our board campaign ASAP to help him run the organization. And pledges, you can't spend pledges, and he needs money.
You mean we have to pay our bills?
Yeah, you have to pay your bills.
Shoot, nobody told me.
And the sooner, the sooner the better. Is that right, Michael?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, I appreciate all of your comments and your feedback and input on everything. You know, Barak started earlier today, and you know, you see these quotes up on the board, and it was the Maya Angelou. You know, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Okay, I take that as the baseline quote, because I remembered another quote, and I had to go look, well, something seemed different in this one. And it was attributed to one of 2 different people, Benjamin Franklin or the Chinese philosopher Confucius. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. So to all of you, being involved, being a part of this process, we very much appreciate all of your support, input. Robert, Brian, earlier today, you get chapter 2 tomorrow. We appreciate all of your leadership and guidance in this process with us. You know, simple way, and appreciate also the comments of our board execs who sit as a part of our board. And I don't know, I had some pretty difficult conversations with folks. And, you know, it was the thing of, we lost the locker room, okay? And we also perhaps lost sight of the customer, who we serve and what we are. There's some very basic blocking and tackling that we do that. So when we talk about gaps, it's not that difficult. We can figure this thing out and bright future. So out of the darkness and into the light we can go. So I want to say thank you to all of you for being a part of that. We're looking forward to tomorrow as well into that. Okay, now I have an announcement, and I didn't mean to say the Yom Kippur pledge joke and standing up, but I have permission to announce. Gives me a great deal of pride. Proud. Lisi Gottinker and her husband have made a generous gift for $500,000 into whatever it is, the tikva, the future. You know, it's fun. It feels good. You know, it's emotional. I get it. Believe me. Okay. So with that, and you know, I just want to say, you know, today is more than just a series of conversations of what we started today. It's the foundation for a new chapter. How we lead, how we serve the movement. We're imagining how JCC Association partners with the field, how we will align around shared priorities, and how we strengthen Jewish life in every community we touch. So, you know, before we transition into the evening, you know, we're gonna have this wonderful opportunity to, you know, connect and experience with this local community here in Minnesota. So don't talk about Twin Cities and it's Minnesota. So next up, we're going to have an optional tour of the Minnesota JCC hosted by their CEO, Stephanie Schaus, and her fantastic team who've been just amazing partners and hosts for us. And it's a chance to explore the facility and the campus and get a glimpse of the energy and the impact that they're creating right here, you know, within the Twin Cities. So after the tour, we're then going to move into cocktails and dinner, and we'll be joined by the Kivanim 2025 cohort of new JCC executives, along with members of the Minnesota JCC staff and board, and also the local Jewish Foundation board. So it'll be a perfect opportunity for all of us to unwind, to make new connections, and share ideas with colleagues who deeply care about the same work that we all do together here to build strong, vibrant Jewish communities. So I want to give you a heads up that you're going to see Annette, right, Annette? Yeah, sure. And see Annette, because she's going to give you a new badge for tonight's evening. And on the back of the badge or on the front of the badge is a table number. So you're going to substitute your current badge for that badge, but we want you to keep your current badge because you need that for security for tomorrow in the hotel. Did I do okay?
You did great.
Got it. Okay. So, anyway, we're going to offer a few brief conversation prompts during dinner that I'm not leading. Somebody else will be leading, or your tables will be leading. And we're going to be here until we depart on the bus at 7:45 to go back to the Hyatt Regency. And then the plan tomorrow, as we move into the next step of what we're doing, and we move from reflection into strategy, and from dialogue into direction, we're going to begin at 8 a.m. in the morning with breakfast in the Hyatt Regency. We will be in the Lakeshore A and B room. And what level is that on? Do we know? Is it important? First floor, thank you. And we'll have breakfast in the Hyatt Regency. And then at 8:30, I will officially open the session, followed by Brian. Do that handoff. I know how to do that now. And who will present a preliminary outline of JCC Association services of the field, and we'll go through the 3 centers, which you're all learning about now. What is it? Center of Talent, Peoplehood, Innovate. Nice job. All right, they're getting it, Barak. Okay, good. And then we'll go through the services and the priorities, and so we get clarity of direction. And then at 10:10, thereabouts, give a minute or two one way or the other, I'm going to turn it over to Lisi, who's going to open the floor for reactions and the next steps before we close. And, you know, we are getting closer to that time when she will be taking over and succeeding me. I have a meeting in January, and then the May board meeting, and then whatever else comes up on Zoom in between that. But that time's getting very exciting for me. So, and then finally, we will transition into ProCon 2025. So our meeting will go till about 10:30 tomorrow. Then you'll have a a break between, so you can go for a walk, whatever, examine the city, and then ProCon itself will begin at 1 o'clock tomorrow with our opening experience, and then that opening plenary is till 2:30, so get excited for that, we all that. So, we close.